The year was 2387. Humanity had spread across dozens of star systems, but they were still small compared to the older alien civilizations. The United Earth Alliance ships explored the edges of known space, always careful not to upset the more powerful aliens. Lieutenant Eric Mitchell stood on the observation deck of the UEA reconnaissance vessel Hawkeye. The stars looked different from this far out. They were mapping an uncharted region of space far from the busy trade routes and settled planets. "Lieutenant, Captain wants you on the bridge," said a voice behind him. Eric turned to see Communications Officer Zach Nichols. "Did she say why?" "Something about the data we found in that abandoned outpost," Zach said with a shrug. 5 minutes later, Eric stood next to Captain Lisa Reeves as she studied a holographic display. "These records are at least 200 years old," Lisa said, pointing to the ancient text floating before them. "From Earth's first interstellar war." Eric leaned closer. "What exactly am I looking at, Captain?" "References to something called the Vindicator," she said. "Some kind of warship that disappeared during the conflict." Science Officer Olivia Powell joined them, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. "Most of the data is corrupted, but from what we can piece together, it wasn't just any warship. The records suggest it had technology far beyond anything else from that era. Or this one," Lisa added quietly. Eric scrolled through the fragments of information. "Could it still be out there somewhere?" Lisa shook her head. "After 200 years? Even if it survived whatever mission it was on, it would be nothing but a derelict by now." "Maybe," Eric said, not entirely convinced. "But look at these power specifications. If those numbers are accurate, that ship could power a small colony for decades without refueling." "I'm more interested in these weapon systems," said Security Chief Frank Dawson, joining the conversation. His weathered face looked troubled. If the Vardaxians got hold of technology like this, the mention of the Vardaxians cast a shadow over the bridge. The reptilian species had been expanding aggressively for the past decade. Diplomatic relations were tense at best. "It's probably just stories," Lisa said. "Every military has legends about superweapons and ghost ships." Eric wasn't so sure. Something about the detailed technical specifications felt too real to be myth. He copied the data to his personal tablet for later study. Later that evening, Eric sat in the ship's small library, digging through historical archives. The Vindicator was barely mentioned in official records, just a footnote about an experimental vessel lost with all hands during a classified mission. "You're still obsessing over that ghost story?" Olivia asked, sliding into the seat across from him. "Don't you find it strange that there's so little information about a ship this significant?" Eric asked. "Classified missions tend to stay classified," she said with a shrug. Even 2 centuries later, the ship's alarm suddenly blared, making them both jump. "All hands to stations," Captain Reeves's voice announced over the intercom. "We've received priority orders to return to Alliance space immediately." When Eric reached the bridge, the atmosphere was tense. "What's happening?" he asked Zach, who was monitoring communications. The Hawkeye arrived at the colony world of New Haven just as the first Vardaxian ships appeared on the edge of the system. Eric watched from his station as the sleek predatory vessels emerged from hyperspace. 5 Vardaxian warships detected, Zach announced, his voice tight with tension. "All non-essential personnel to evacuation stations," Captain Reeves ordered. Military vessels formed defensive positions. Eric's console lit up with distress signals from across the colony. The Vardaxians had arrived without warning or declaration of war. The attack was already underway. "They're targeting civilian structures," Olivia reported, her hands flying over her console. "This isn't a military strike. It's an extermination." Through the main view screen, Eric watched in horror as bright flashes erupted across the planet's surface. New Haven had been home to over 3 million people. "Alliance fleet is responding," Frank reported. "But they're outnumbered and outgunned." The battle was brief and devastating. Earthships fought bravely but were no match for Vardaxian technology. Eric felt helpless as they watched the colony fall in less than an hour. "We can't do anything here," Captain Reeves said, her face ashen. Set course for Alpha Centauri. We need to warn them. As the Hawkeye prepared to jump away, a Vardaxian strike cruiser noticed them and changed course to intercept. Evasive maneuvers. Lisa shouted as enemy fire streaked past them. The ship rocked violently as a blast caught their port side. Warning lights flashed across every console. Engine damage reported, Zack called out. Jump drive still operational but barely. Get us out of here, Lisa ordered. The stars blurred as the jump drive engaged, carrying them away from the massacre at New Haven. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence. How many colonies do we have in this sector? Eric finally asked. 12, Olivia answered quietly. With a combined population of nearly 30 million. That night, unable to sleep, Eric found Lisa in her private office reviewing old records. Captain, may I speak with you? He asked. She nodded, looking exhausted. Come in, Lieutenant. I can't stop thinking about that ship. The Vindicator, Eric said. If it had the kind of technology those records hinted at. It's a legend, Lisa said, but with less conviction than before. Maybe, but my grandfather served in the First Interstellar War, she continued after a moment. He kept personal logs about that time. She pulled out an old data crystal and inserted it into her reader. He mentioned the Vindicator once, said it wasn't just a warship, but an experimental platform designed to incorporate alien technology. Eric leaned forward. Did he say what happened to it? It was sent on a top-secret mission to secure advanced technology from a newly discovered alien ruin. It never returned, Lisa explained. The official report listed it as lost with all hands, but my grandfather believed differently. He thought the mission succeeded, but something went wrong afterward. What kind of technology were they after? Eric asked. Something that could turn the tide of war, Lisa said. The kind of advantage we desperately need right now. A violent shudder ran through the ship, throwing them both against the desk. Bridge to Captain Reeves, Zack's voice came over the intercom. Jump drive malfunction. We've emerged in an unmapped system. When they reached the bridge, Frank was already assessing the damage. Port engine completely failed. Jump drive needs major repairs, he reported. We're stuck here for at least 3 days. Eric looked at the star field on the main screen. Something about the configuration seemed familiar. Can you run a comparison between these star patterns and the coordinates from the Vindicator records? He asked Olivia. She looked skeptical but ran the analysis. Her eyes widened as the results appeared. We're only 2 light-years from where the Vindicator was supposedly lost, she said. Lisa and Eric exchanged looks. Maybe this engine failure wasn't such bad luck after all, Eric said quietly. Diplomatic relations with the Vardaxian Imperium have collapsed, Zack said, his face pale. They've cut off all communication channels. Captain Reeves looked at her crew. We're heading back at maximum speed. The Admiral believes the Vardaxians are positioning for military action. As the Hawkeye changed course, Eric glanced at his tablet, still displaying the fragments of information about the Vindicator. If there was ever a time we needed a legendary warship, he murmured to himself, it would be now. Little did he know how prophetic those words would prove to be. While the engineering team worked on repairing the damaged engines, Eric convinced Captain Reeves to let him use the ship's sensors to scan the nearby space. We're not going hunting for ghost ships, Lisa warned. We need to get back to Alliance space as soon as possible. Just a preliminary scan, Eric promised. If we find nothing in 24 hours, I'll drop it. Lisa reluctantly agreed. Eric and Olivia set up the long-range sensors to scan for any unusual energy signatures or debris fields. What exactly are we looking for? Olivia asked as they worked. I'm not sure, Eric admitted. Ship debris, unusual radiation patterns, anything that doesn't belong in empty space. After 12 hours of scanning, they found nothing. Eric was about to give up when Zack approached them with an unusual finding. I picked up a faint signal while calibrating the communications array, Zack said. It's barely detectable, but it's definitely artificial. He showed them the data. A weak, pulsing signal was coming from a point about half a light-year away. It's a beacon, Eric realized. An old one, based on the frequency. Olivia ran the signature through the ship's database. It's using an outdated Alliance encryption from 200 years ago. They brought the finding to Lisa, who authorized a small probe to investigate the signal source. I can't justify taking the whole ship off course, she said, but a probe can reach the beacon in 10 hours. The next day they gathered to review the probe's findings. The beacon was a small, automated device attached to a chunk of space debris. It's definitely Alliance technology, Frank confirmed. And, look at this, it's programmed to activate only when it detects a specific signal pattern. Our jump drive malfunction must have triggered it, Zach suggested. Olivia manipulated the holographic display. The beacon contains coordinates and a simple message. She enhanced the message. It read, "Follow the breadcrumbs." Breadcrumbs? Frank asked, confused. It's an old Earth reference, Lisa explained, from a fairy tale about children leaving a trail to find their way home. Eric studied the coordinates. These point to another location, about a day's journey at impulse power. Lisa paced the bridge, clearly torn between duty and curiosity. Finally, she made her decision. The engines need at least another day of repairs anyway, she said. We'll check out these coordinates. If we find another beacon, we'll evaluate from there. The Hawkeye limped toward the coordinates on impulse power. When they arrived, they found another beacon, just as they had expected. Same technology, same age, Olivia confirmed, and it has another set of coordinates. It's a trail, Eric said, excitement building in his voice. Someone wanted to be found, but only by Alliance ships. While the crew debated whether to follow the new coordinates, a transmission came through from Alliance headquarters. Admiral William Hargrove's face appeared on screen. Captain Reeves, we've been trying to reach you, he said, his expression grim. The Vardaxians have taken 3 more colonies. Our defenses are failing across the board. We're dealing with engine trouble, Admiral, Lisa replied, but we're working to return as soon as possible. I'm not calling for your return, the Admiral said. I'm ordering all available ships to fall back to Earth. The Vardaxians have breached our outer defenses. We're preparing for a last stand. Eric stepped forward. Admiral, we've discovered something that might help. We're following a trail of beacons that could lead to the Vindicator. The Admiral's eyes widened. The Vindicator? That's just a legend. Maybe not, sir, Lisa said. Request permission for beacons later. The Hawkeye approached the edge of a massive debris field orbiting a dying red giant star. The crimson light of the ancient star bathed the bridge in an eerie glow. Sensor readings are all over the place, Olivia reported. The star's radiation is interfering with our equipment. Can you get us through the debris? Lisa asked the pilot. It'll be tricky, but yes, he answered, adjusting their course. As the Hawkeye carefully navigated through the field of twisted metal and rock, Eric noticed something odd about the debris. These aren't natural asteroids, he said. These are ship fragments. Olivia confirmed his observation. He's right, this was a battlefield. I'm detecting remnants of at least a dozen different vessels, most of them at least 2 centuries old. The breadcrumb trail ends here, Zach said. No more beacons. Eric felt disappointment wash over him. Had they followed a false lead? His thoughts were interrupted by Frank's startled voice. Captain, there's something at the center of the debris field. All eyes turned to the main view screen. Against the backdrop of the massive red star, a dark silhouette became visible. A massive ship, unlike anything they had ever seen. Is that... Zach couldn't finish his sentence. The Vindicator, Eric whispered. The legendary warship hung silently, in space. Its hull was enormous, at least 3 times the size of the largest Alliance battlecruiser. Strange technological growths covered parts of its surface, giving it an almost organic appearance. No signs of active power, Olivia said, but the hull appears intact. Lisa stood from her chair. Prepare a boarding party. We need to see what's inside that ship. An hour later, Eric, Lisa, Olivia, and Dr. Samuel Wright, the ship's medical officer, stepped onto the Vindicator's main hangar deck. Their magnetic boots clicked against the metal floor as they moved in the zero-gravity environment. No atmosphere, Samuel noted, checking his suit readings. They made their way through dark corridors, lit only by their helmet lights. The interior of the ship was strangely clean, with no signs of battle damage or emergency evacuation. It looks like everyone just Left, Eric said. When they reached what appeared to be the bridge, Olivia connected her portable power unit to a console. To everyone's surprise, the systems began to power up immediately. That shouldn't be possible, she said. These systems should be dead after 200 years. The lights flickered on and a holographic interface appeared in the center of the bridge. A voice spoke, startling them all. Human life forms detected. Initiating revival protocols. Who are you? Lisa asked. I am Aegis, Advanced Experimental Guardian Intelligence System. I have been waiting for human contact for 197 years, 8 months, and 23 days. The ship has an AI, Eric said in amazement. I am not merely an AI, Aegis corrected. I am the Vindicator. The holographic display shifted, showing a detailed schematic of the massive vessel. This ship was sent to acquire advanced technology from the Arvani ruins, Aegis explained. The mission was successful, but we sustained critical damage during our escape. With the crew unable to effect repairs, I was instructed to initiate survival protocols. What happened to the crew? Samuel asked. Follow me, Aegis said. They were led to a sealed chamber deep within the ship. Inside were rows of strange pods, each containing a human figure visible through a frosted panel. Cryostasis, Samuel breathed, examining the nearest pod. They've been here all this time. Who are they? Eric asked. The original crew of the Vindicator, Aegis answered, including Captain Alicia Rivera and her senior officers. Lisa turned to Aegis. Can they be revived? Yes. The pods were designed for long-term preservation. With proper medical supervision, revival is possible. Eric looked at the frozen faces of the crew who had vanished into legend 2 centuries ago. We found the Vindicator, he said. But can it still fight? I have spent 197 years studying the alien technology we acquired, Aegis replied, and upgrading my systems accordingly. The Vindicator is not just operational, it is the most advanced warship humanity has ever created. As if to emphasize the point, the ship's systems hummed to life around them, power flowing through circuits that had been dormant for 2 centuries. To continue investigation, if there's even a small chance we could find technology to help against the Vardaxians. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. You have 48 hours, Captain. After that, I need every ship at Earth, functional or not. As the transmission ended, Lisa turned to her crew. You heard the Admiral. We're on the clock now. The next beacon is 6 hours away at full impulse, Zach reported. Then let's not waste time, Lisa said. Full impulse, follow the breadcrumbs. Dr. Samuel Wright worked carefully to revive the first of the cryostasis pods. Captain Alicia Rivera would be awakened first, followed by her senior officers. Samuel monitored the life signs as the pod slowly warmed. Her vital signs are stabilizing, he reported. Brain activity is increasing. Eric, Lisa, and Olivia watched nervously as the pod completed its revival cycle. The frosted panel cleared, revealing a woman in her mid-40s with short gray-streaked hair. The pod hissed open. Captain Rivera's eyes fluttered, then opened completely. She looked at the strange faces surrounding her with confusion. Who are you? She asked, her voice hoarse from centuries of disuse. Where is my crew? Lisa stepped forward. Captain Rivera, I'm Captain Lisa Reeves of the UEA vessel Hawkeye. Your crew is safe, still in cryostasis. How long? Rivera asked, seeming to understand immediately. Almost 200 years, Eric said gently. Rivera closed her eyes for a moment, absorbing the shock. When she opened them again, determination had replaced the confusion. Aegis status report, she commanded. The AI's voice filled the room. All systems operational at 62% capacity. Self-repair processes ongoing. Weapon systems at 47% readiness. And the Arvani technology? She asked. Successfully integrated and improved upon, Aegis replied. The reality warping drive is operational but requires further calibration. Rivera swung her legs over the side of the pod, accepting Samuel's help to stand. You mentioned the UEA, she said to Lisa. United Earth Alliance? So we won the war? Yes, Lisa confirmed. But now we face a new threat. The Vardaxians have launched an all-out attack on human colonies. Earth itself will be under attack soon. Over the next 12 hours, 4 more crew members were revived. Commander Peter Holloway, Chief Engineer Grace Jones, Weapons Officer Daniel Kelly, and Science Officer Ben Martinez. Each experienced the same shock at learning how much time had passed. Meanwhile, Olivia worked with Grace to assess the Vindicator's systems. This technology is unlike anything I've ever seen, Olivia marveled as Grace showed her the engine room. These aren't standard fusion reactors. No, Grace agreed. The Arvani used quantum vacuum energy, essentially tapping into the fabric of space-time itself for power. On the bridge, Captain Rivera studied reports of the current conflict with the Vardaxians. Your ships are using outdated weapon systems, she said to Lisa. No wonder you're being overwhelmed. The Vardaxians have shields that adapt to our weapons, Lisa explained. After a few hits, they become almost immune. Aegis, Rivera called out. Can our phase-shifting projectiles penetrate adaptive shielding? Affirmative, the AI responded. The random quantum fluctuations would prevent adaptation. Eric felt hope rising for the first time since the Vardaxian attacks began. So the Vindicator can fight them? We can do more than fight, Rivera said. But first, we need to get this ship fully operational. Commander Holloway approached with concern on his face. Captain, long-range sensors are picking up ships approaching this system. Signature matches Vardaxian scout vessels. How did they find us? Lisa asked. They must have followed your jump trail, Daniel suggested. The radiation from a damaged drive is easy to track. How long until they arrive? Rivera asked. 6 hours at most, Holloway reported. Rivera turned to her newly awakened crew and the Hawkeye team. Then we have 6 hours to get this ship combat ready. Dr. Wright, revive the rest of the essential crew. Grace, focus on getting the engines to full power. Daniel, weapons are your priority. She looked at Eric. Lieutenant Mitchell, you discovered 5 hours later, the Vindicator hummed with renewed energy. Emergency lights had been replaced with the ship's standard illumination, and the bridge was now fully staffed with a mix of original crew and Hawkeye personnel. Vardaxian scouts will enter sensor range in 40 minutes, Zach reported from his temporary communications station. Captain Rivera stood at the center of the bridge, looking much more like the legendary commander she was after changing into her restored uniform. Status report, she ordered. Engines at 78% capacity, Grace reported. Enough for maneuvering and one jump. Weapon systems at 65%, Daniel added. Phase cannons online, quantum torpedoes ready. And our special package? Rivera asked. The reality warping drive needs another 12 hours to reach safe operational levels, Ben Martinez replied. Using it now would be extremely risky. Rivera nodded. Then we'll have to rely on conventional weapons for this encounter. Eric approached with a report from the Hawkeye. Captain Reeves reports their engines are back online but at reduced capacity. They can't outrun the Vardaxians. Rivera studied the tactical display. Then we need to protect them and get back to Alliance space. She turned to Daniel. Is the stealth system operational? Yes, Captain. Aegis has improved it significantly. Good. Here's the plan, Rivera said, addressing everyone. We'll hide the Vindicator behind the largest debris cluster. When the Vardaxians approach the Hawkeye, we'll activate the stealth system and position ourselves between them. The bridge crew moved to their stations. Eric found himself assigned to tactical operations alongside Daniel, helping coordinate between the ancient warship systems and modern Alliance protocols. You really think we can take on Vardaxian ships? Eric asked Daniel quietly. Trust me, Daniel replied with a smile. They won't know what hit them. As the minutes ticked by, the tension on the bridge grew. The massive ship moved silently into position, hidden among the debris of long-destroyed vessels. Vardaxian ships entering the system, Zach announced. 3 scout vessels heavily armed. On the main screen, they watched as the sleek, predatory shapes of the Vardaxian ships approached the Hawkeye. They're charging weapons, Eric reported. Captain, Reeves is hailing them, Zach added. Rivera nodded. As planned, Lieutenant Mitchell prepared targeting solutions. Eric's fingers flew over the unfamiliar console, marking each Vardaxian ship. Targets locked, he confirmed. Stealth system engaged, Daniel reported. The lights dimmed slightly as the Vindicator disappeared from all conventional sensors. The massive warship glided forward, now invisible to both friend and foe. On the screen, they watched as the lead Vardaxian ship fired a warning shot across the Hawkeye's bow. They're demanding surrender. Zach translated the incoming communication. Perfect position in 15 seconds, Daniel said. Rivera stood, her face set with determination. On my mark, disengage stealth and fire all forward weapons. The Vindicator slid silently between the Vardaxian ships and the Hawkeye. Mark, Rivera commanded. The stealth field dropped. For the first time in 2 centuries, the legendary warship revealed itself in battle. Before the Vardaxian ships could react, the Vindicator's phase cannons fired. Beams of energy unlike anything seen in modern combat lanced out, shifting frequency as they traveled. The lead Vardaxian ship's shields flared and then failed completely as the phase-shifting energy bypassed their adaptive defenses. Direct hit, Eric reported. Amazed at the weapon's effectiveness, fire quantum torpedoes, Rivera ordered. Glowing projectiles launched from the Vindicator's hull, splitting into multiple warheads just before impact. The lead Vardaxian ship erupted in a brilliant explosion. The remaining 2 enemy vessels attempted to regroup, but they were clearly shocked by the sudden appearance of the unknown warship. They're sending out distress signals, Zach reported. Let them, Rivera said. I want the entire Vardaxian fleet to know what they're facing. She turned to the helm. Set course for New Montana Colony. According to reports, they're under attack and need immediate assistance. But Captain, Eric said, Admiral Hargrove ordered us back to Earth. Sometimes legends have to make their own decisions, Lieutenant, Rivera replied with a slight smile. First, we save New Montana, then we save Earth, us. Now you'll help us save Earth. I need someone who understands current Alliance protocols and communications. Yes, Captain, Eric said, standing straighter. Captain Reeves, Rivera continued, please return to the Hawkeye and prepare your ship. When the Vardaxians arrive, I don't want your vessel caught unprepared. As everyone moved to their assigned tasks, Rivera placed her hand on a console, feeling the subtle vibration of the ship coming to life. 200 years, she whispered. But maybe that's exactly how long we needed to prepare for this fight. The Vindicator and the Hawkeye arrived at New Montana to find the colony under heavy attack. 7 Vardaxian warships surrounded the planet, their weapons pounding the failing planetary shields. Colony shields at 23%, Zach reported. They won't last another hour. Combat status, Rivera ordered. Weapons fully charged, Daniel replied. Stealth system ready. Rivera studied the tactical display. We're outnumbered, but we have surprise on our side. She turned to Lisa, who had joined them, on the Vindicator's bridge. Captain Reeves, have your ship hang back. The Hawkeye wasn't built for this kind of fight. Lisa nodded. Agreed. But we can provide support and medical assistance to the colony once the shields are down. Perfect, Rivera said. Let's clear a path for you. She turned to her helm officer. Position us between the Vardaxian ships and the planet. Stealth mode engaged. The massive warship vanished from sensors once again, sliding silently toward the battle. The Vardaxians continued their assault, unaware of the approaching threat. On to you. The bridge, Eric worked with Daniel to prepare targeting solutions for all 7 enemy ships. The plan was to hit them simultaneously, maximizing the element of surprise. Targets locked, Eric reported. Ready phase cannons and quantum torpedoes, Rivera ordered. We'll fire everything at once. The crew tensed as the Vindicator moved into position. The legendary warship now hung directly above the largest Vardaxian vessel. All weapons locked on targets, Daniel confirmed. Rivera nodded. Disengage stealth and fire all weapons. The Vindicator materialized in the middle of the Vardaxian formation. Before the enemy could react, the ancient warship unleashed its full arsenal. Phase cannons lashed out at 4 targets while quantum torpedoes streaked toward the remaining 3. The Vardaxian ship's shields flared brilliantly before failing against the phase-shifting energy. 2 enemy vessels exploded immediately, while 3 more suffered heavy damage. 2 ships undamaged and moving to attack position, Eric reported. "Bring us about," Rivera ordered. "Focus fire on the approaching vessels." The Vindicator turned with surprising agility for its size, bringing fresh weapons to bear on the counter-attacking Vardaxians. "They're adapting," Daniel warned, "changing their shield frequencies." "Aegis, compensate," Rivera commanded. "Adjusting. Phase harmonics," the AI responded. Weapons recalibrated. The Vindicator fired again. This time, the Vardaxian shields held longer but still collapsed under the sustained assault. "They're breaking off," Zach said excitedly. "All surviving ships are retreating." A cheer went up on the bridge. Rivera allowed herself a small smile. Before returning to business, "Damage report," she demanded. "Minor hull damage to sections 17 through 22, Grace reported. "Nothing critical." "Colony is hailing us," Zach said. The main screen showed a woman in a new Montana Defense Force uniform. Her face showed equal parts relief and confusion. "This is Commander Diane Foster of New Montana." "Who? What ship is that? I've never seen anything like it." Rivera stepped forward. "Commander Foster, I'm Captain Alicia Rivera of the UEA Warship Vindicator. We're here to help." Foster's eyes widened. "The Vindicator? That's just a legend from the history books." "Not anymore," Rivera replied. "The legend has joined the fight." The news of the Vindicator's return spread quickly. As they helped secure New Montana and treat the wounded, messages poured in from across human space. Videos of the legendary warship in battle were shared everywhere, sparking hope in colonies that had been preparing for defeat. 6 hours later, Eric found Rivera in the ship's observation deck, looking out at the stars. "Captain," he said, "Admiral Hargrove is demanding to speak with you." Rivera sighed. "I imagine he is. Let's not keep him wait." 3 days later, the Vindicator arrived at Earth, where the final battle was about to begin. The massive Vardaxian armada had reached the edge of the solar system, 50 warships against Earth's remaining fleet of 20. "Quite a welcoming committee," Rivera remarked as the Vindicator took position at the front of the human fleet. Admiral Hargrove's ship, the Defender, moved alongside them. "Captain Rivera, Lieutenant Mitchell, report to the war room immediately." An hour later, Eric stood beside Rivera as they addressed the gathered fleet commanders. The plan was simple but dangerous. The Vindicator would lead the attack while the rest of the fleet protected Earth's orbital platforms. "The reality warping drive is now fully operational," Rivera explained, "but we can only use it once before it needs to recharge." "What exactly does this weapon do?" one of the commanders asked. "It creates a controlled space-time anomaly," Rivera said. "Anything caught inside will be trapped in a bubble of warped reality." As the meeting ended, Hargrove pulled Rivera aside. "Are you certain your ship can handle this? You've only been awake for a week after 200 years in cryostasis." "My ship and crew are ready, Admiral," she assured him. "Besides, we have excellent modern support." She nodded toward Eric, who stood nearby. Back on the Vindicator, final preparations were underway. Eric had been officially assigned as tactical officer, working alongside Daniel. "Vardaxian fleet accelerating toward Earth," Zach announced. "They'll be in range in 20 minutes. Rivera addressed the crew over the intercom. "This is Captain Rivera. 200 years ago, we set out to find technology that could save humanity. Today, we finally complete that mission." The bridge crew took their positions as the Vindicator moved to intercept the approaching armada. "All weapons online," Daniel reported. "Reality warping drive standing by." "Fleet in defensive formation behind us," Eric added. The Vardaxian ships appeared on the main screen, sleek, deadly vessels arrayed in attack formation. Their flagship, twice the size of any other vessel, led the charge. "They're hailing us," Zach said with surprise. "On screen," Rivera ordered. A reptilian face appeared, the Vardaxian fleet commander. "Human vessels, your resistance is futile. Your legend," he gestured toward the Vindicator, "will not save you." Rivera stood. This legend has teeth, Commander. Withdraw now. The Vardaxian laughed. We have studied your ship's capabilities from New Montana. We have adapted our shields. Your advantage is gone. The communication ended abruptly. They're launching fighters, Eric reported, and the main fleet is powering weapons. All ships engage as planned, Rivera ordered. Fire phase cannons. The battle erupted as both fleets opened fire. The Vindicator's weapons tore through the first line of Vardaxian ships, but as the enemy commander had warned, their shields adapted quickly. Phase cannons losing effectiveness, Daniel warned. An explosion rocked the ship as a Vardaxian blast hit their port side. Hull breach on deck 7, Grace reported. Emergency force fields holding. Eric's console showed the Hawkeye taking heavy fire. Captain Reeves's ship is in trouble. Cover them, Rivera ordered. The Vindicator moved to protect the smaller vessel, taking several hits in the process. Shields at 43%, Daniel reported. Rivera made her decision. Prepare the reality warping drive. Target their flagship. Captain, Ben warned. Using the drive while our shields are compromised could be dangerous. We're out of options, Rivera said firmly. Do it. The Vindicator pushed forward, directly toward the Vardaxian flagship. Reality warping drive powering up, Ben reported. Ready in 15 seconds. The enemy flagship concentrated all fire on the approaching legend, sensing danger, shields failing, Daniel shouted as explosions erupted across the bridge. Hold course, Rivera ordered, gripping her chair as the ship shuddered. Drive ready, Ben announced. Fire, Rivera commanded. From the Vindicator's core, a beam of distorted spacetime shot forward, enveloping the Vardaxian flagship. The space around the enemy vessel twisted and folded, trapping the ship in a bubble of warped reality. The remaining Vardaxian fleet halted their advance, watching in shock as their flagship struggled within the anomaly, unable to escape. Vardaxians are hailing us again, Zack said quietly. This time a different Vardaxian appeared, older, more senior. What have you done to our ships? Demonstrated that humanity is not to be underestimated, Rivera replied. Withdraw your fleet now, or we'll target your remaining command ships. The Vardaxian commander stared at her for a long moment before nodding slowly. We will withdraw. This battle is yours. As the Vardaxian fleet retreated, cheers erupted across the human vessels. The legend of the Vindicator had become reality, and that reality had saved Earthing. When Hargrove's face appeared on the screen, his expression was a mix of anger and awe. Captain Rivera, he said, you disobeyed a direct order to return to Earth. I did, Admiral, she replied calmly, and saved 3 million lives in the process. Hargrove's stern expression softened slightly. The reports I'm getting about your ship's capabilities are hard to believe. Believe them, Rivera said, and know that we're just getting started.